Hi, I'm Sergio, 51, and my whole life split cleanly into before and after one stupid sentence I was never supposed to hear. Dad is so petty.
He doesn't want Mom's lover at my wedding. Let me rewind just enough so this makes sense. For 25 years, I worked for the same construction company.
Same helmet, same steel toe boots, same early mornings.
Rain, heat, holidays. It didn't matter.
I took every overtime shift they threw at me because I had a simple goal. My family would never worry about money the way I did growing up. My wife, Laura, and I had been married 24 years.
Our daughter, Camilla, was 22, finishing an insanely expensive marketing degree at a private university. I paid every cent of that tuition. I also had a separate savings account labeled in big bold letters. Camilla Wedding Future. That account held the deposits for the venue,
Catering, photographer, dress, DJ, and a down payment I was planning for their apartment. Camilla was engaged to a good kid named India S. Hard-working, polite, nothing fancy, just solid. I liked him.
not as loud as my side of the family, but decent. In my head, I was doing everything right. In reality, I was apparently the embarrassing idiot funding his own humiliation. Things at home had been off for about a year. Laura suddenly became a wellness person. Yoga 3 times a week, pilates twice,
Spiritual coaching on weekends,
somehow all of that required makeup, heels,
and perfume you could smell from the driveway. When I joked once,
for someone so spiritual you sure like expensive sneakers. She gave me a look like I'd insulted her religion. Camilla had drifted too.
as a kid, she'd wait for me at the door, jump into my arms, and tell me about her day in breathless detail.
Now she greeted me with, "Hi, Dad," without looking up from her phone. I told myself it was normal. She was an adult.
Kids grow up.
They disconnect.
It's life.
I didn't want to think any deeper than that. Then came that Thursday. My boss called me into his office. "You've been killing yourself on this last project, Sergio," he said. "Go home early.
Take the afternoon.
Your guys can finish without you for once." I left work at 3 with something I hadn't felt in months. A good mood.
I stopped by a florist and bought Laura her favorite white lilies.
Then I grabbed a good bottle of wine. I had this dumb,
Old-fashioned idea in my head. Surprise my wife. Cook together. Maybe talk like real people for the first time in weeks. Her car was already in the driveway.
strange.
She usually got back around 7.
I parked.
The gate was half open. The front door wasn't locked. I walked inside quietly, balancing the flowers and the wine, already thinking I should have texted first, so she wouldn't freak out. Then I heard it. Voices in the living room.
Light, relaxed. Like it was the happiest day of their lives. My daughter's laugh came first. Not the nervous laugh she used when asking me for money.
A different one.
Freer. "Mina, Dad is so petty. He doesn't want Mom's lover at my wedding," she said, stretching out the word lover like it tasted delicious. I froze in the hallway.
Every sound in the house went sharp and clear.
The ticking of the clock, the hum of the fridge, my own heartbeat in my ears. Then Laura's voice, amused, indulgent. "Oh, come on, Cammy."
You know how your father is.
He thinks his opinion still matters because he pays for everything. They both laughed. I remember staring at a spot on the wall, trying to convince myself I had misheard.
Lover?
Maybe they were talking about a TV show, a movie.
Something. Then Camilla again. Seriously. MOM. I want IL there. He's way more fun than Dad.
Imagine him at the reception. He'd actually dance, not sit there with that boring face. My whole body went cold. ILX. So it wasn't lover in the abstract. It was a person, a specific man.
With a name I knew. IL was the trainer from Laura's gym.
Younger,
Hair to perfect, smile to white, forearms that looked like he did bicep curls with other people's husband's dignity. I'd met him twice. He called me Sergio brother.
and clapped me on the shoulder like we were best friends. Laura, still unaware I was 4 meters away, answered, "Of course, I want him there, mi amor."
But your father is so fragile. Imagine his face when he sees us taking a picture together. He'll have a heart attack from pure machismo. Camilla snorted. Then maybe the inheritance comes sooner. They both laughed. I didn't drop the flowers.
They just
slid out of my hand.
The bottle of wine tilted, hit the floor, and rolled under the console table. The sound made them jump. I stepped into the living room. Laura went white. Camilla's eyes went huge. For a couple of seconds, nobody said a word. You could have heard a dust particle fall. I looked at my daughter first. The girl I'd carried on my shoulders. The one whose school projects I'd stayed up all night helping with. The one I'd secretly cried over when she got into that absurdly expensive university. She stared back at me like I was an intruder in my own house. "You're right," I said calmly. My own voice sounded strange in my ears. "I am petty. Petty enough that, as of today, I will no longer be paying for your college or your wedding." The sentence left my mouth before my brain could soften it. There was no tremor in my voice, no yelling, just a clean cut. The world shifted right then.
You don't always feel the exact second your life changes.
This time I did. Laura's coffee cup slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. Camilla's mouth opened and closed without sound, like a fish yanked out of water. "Dad, what are you talking about?"
She finally managed, her voice going high and sharp. I ignored her question and turned to Laura. "How long?"
I asked. Her eyes flicked away for a moment. That tiny movement told me everything I needed. "Sergio, calm down," she started, going straight to the script. "You misunderstood. We were just—" "I didn't misunderstand anything," I cut in. "How long?" Camilla jumped in, defensive and annoyed instead of ashamed. "Why do you always have to make everything a drama? It was just a joke. You're overreacting, as usual." I looked at her. Really looked at her.
Perfect nails. New phone.
Braces I'd paid for years ago. Now straight white teeth twisted in irritation. "Was it also a joke when you called R.A. Elmo's lover?"
I asked. "Or when you said you wanted him at your wedding more than your own father?" She flushed, then lifted her chin in that arrogant way she had copied from her mother. "Everyone knows you and MOM are basically over," she muttered. "You're just roommates who pay bills."
"R.A.L. actually makes her happy. Why shouldn't he be there?" Laura flinched. I didn't.
Something inside me had already snapped, so I nodded slowly. "You want your mother's boyfriend at your wedding?"
"The wedding I am paying for. The venue I booked. The food I paid for. The dress I advanced the money for. The house I was about to put a down payment on." I watched the math run across her face. "Dad, nobody said you were not invited." She tried, as if she was doing me a favor. "You're being childish. This is my day. I get to choose who is there." "You're absolutely right," I said.
"It is your day."
"You get to choose who is there." I let that hang for a second. "And I added, get to choose what I fund." Laura finally stepped closer, switching to her conciliation tone, the one that had gotten her new kitchen counters.
"That remodel, those vacations, Sergio, please."
"Don't mix things. Whatever is happening between you and me is one thing. Daniela's future is another."
"You can't punish her for our problems." I looked back at my daughter, Daniela. I said quietly, "I heard you laughing about me, like I'm some pathetic obstacle."
"You want to know what's petty?"
"Petty is bringing your mother's lover to a wedding I pay for and expecting me to smile in the photos." Her eyes filled with tears instantly.
She reached for the fastest weapon she had. "If you cancel everything, I'll have to drop out," she sobbed.
"We'll lose the venue, the deposits, everything."
"You're going to ruin my life over a man you don't like." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because the disconnect was so huge it felt unreal. "I'm not ruining your life," I said. "I'm ending my sponsorship." Something hard settled in my chest then.
I wasn't angry in the usual sense anymore.
This felt different, cold, precise. Laura tried one last angle. "If you do this," she hissed, the sweetness dropping for a moment, "you'll regret it. She'll never forgive you."
"I'll make sure of it." There it was.
The real Laura. I picked up the flowers from the floor, dropped them in the trash, took the wine from under the console table, and headed for the door. "Sergio, where are you going?" she demanded. "To stop paying for a life where I'm the clown," I said, hand on the knob.
"And to talk to a lawyer." I walked out before any of them could respond.
I didn't go far that first night. There's a cheap motel just off the highway, the kind of place construction crews use when a job runs late.
I had stayed there a few times over the years rather than risk driving home half asleep. The sheets are scratchy. The air conditioner sounds like it's dying.
and the TV remote never works.
But that night it felt like neutral ground, and neutral was the best I could hope for. I sat on the edge of the bed with the TV off, staring at my phone on the nightstand as it vibrated non-stop. First came the calls from Laura. 20 missed calls in 10 minutes. Then Camilla. Dad, pick up. Please answer. Why are you doing this? Then the messages started. From Laura. You're acting insane.
I told you, you misunderstood. IL is just a friend. Answer your phone or I'm coming to find you. From Camilla. Dad, please, don't cancel the wedding.
I didn't mean it like that.
You always twist everything. I put the phone on airplane mode. The silence was instant and heavy. My first instinct was to doubt myself.
Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe people in long marriages have flings and modern families make it work. Then I pictured my daughter, my own kid, saying IL was more fun than me, that he should be at the wedding.
That I was petty for not wanting the guy who's sleeping with my wife standing next to me in family photos. The motel pillow survived maybe 3 punches before I ran out of energy around midnight. I finally texted my friend Lewis.
We'd worked together for 18 years.
I'd seen him crawl out from under collapsed scaffolding, and I trusted him more than most of my relatives.
You awake?
Always, he replied in seconds. Night shift. I called him and told him everything. The overheard conversation. The lover, the wedding, the inheritance comes soon a joke. He went quiet for a long time. I could hear traffic and metal clanking in the background. Sergio, he said finally, if you punched a wall, I'd understand.
But you didn't. You cut the money. That's the one language they've been speaking to you in for years. I let out a humorless laugh. You think I did the right thing. I think, he said slowly, you stopped paying to be disrespected. There's a difference between being a father and being a sponsor. They confused the two.
That's not on you. I slept badly, but I slept. That was more than I expected. In the morning, I went to work as if nothing had happened. Helmet on, boots laced, clipboard in hand. The crew sensed something was off and didn't push.
One thing about construction guys, they'll tease you about your haircut or your lunch, but when your eyes are that empty, they shut up and work till lunch. I finally called a lawyer.
Not Carlos like in those stories you hear. Mine was Onamar A, recommended by Louis' cousin. Mid-40s. Direct, zero nonsense. Tell me everything, she said. I did. The affair I just discovered.
The fact that my daughter knew and was siding with her mother.
The wedding, the tuition, the second mortgage I was about to sign, the house, the joint accounts. She listened without interrupting, just jotting notes. When I finished, she leaned back. First thing, she said, stop feeling guilty for being angry. What they're doing is abusive, emotional and financial.
Second, we move fast.
You're still in control of your finances. Don't wait until you're the one being kicked out. Hearing someone name it abusive hit me harder than I expected. What do I do exactly?
Do you want to stay married?
The question landed like a brick. No preamble, no sugar.
I saw Laura's face in my head.
Our early years. Our first apartment with the broken sink. The night Camilla was born and I'd almost fainted. Then I saw that same woman laughing in the kitchen about me dying sooner so the inheritance would come. No, I said quietly.
I don't. Good, Anna replied. Clarity saves time.
Then we file for divorce. But before that, we secure what we can. You have joint accounts? Yes. You're legally entitled to half.
Move your half to a new personal account.
Leave the rest. That way she can't claim you abandoned her with nothing. Cancel secondary credit cards. Freeze any new loans or mortgages in both your names.
And do not move out of the house permanently without a plan. Walking out and letting her occupy everything is a classic mistake. I frowned. I already left. Stayed at a motel last night. Temporarily is fine. We'll document that it was due to conflict, not abandonment. She slid a form across the desk. Sign this so I can represent you.
And Sergio?
Yes. Prepare yourself.
When you stop paying, you stop being useful. People show their real faces very quickly then. On my way out of her office, I turned my phone back on. The notifications almost crashed it. New messages from Laura. We need to talk.
You're not thinking clearly. You're really going to throw away 24 years over a misunderstanding?
If you cut off Camilla's tuition, she will never forgive you. From Camilla. Dad, the university called. The payment bounced. What did you do? Please don't do this. I'm in my last year.
You can't abandon me now.
Answer me. I didn't answer. Not yet. First, I went to the bank. I moved half of the joint balance into a new account.
It wasn't a fortune, but it was years of my overtime packed into numbers on a screen. I cancelled the secondary credit card.
The bank clerk, polite but curious, asked if everything was okay. It would be, I said. The call came 10 minutes later as I walked out of the branch. Laura, are you insane?
She snapped the second I picked up.
My card got declined at the supermarket. At the supermarket, Sergio? In front of everyone. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was?
I stopped by a tree, leaning on the trunk. You were worried about your humiliation, I asked calmly.
Interesting. You didn't seem worried.
About mine when you were planning to bring your boyfriend to our daughter's wedding.
Stop calling him that, she hissed. You're being vulgar. You left. What did you expect me to do? Sit at home waiting for you to grace us with your presence. You're never emotionally available.
IL listens to me. He understands me.
IL slept with my wife, I said.
That's his level of emotional investment. You're being cruel, she said, voice shaking now that the finances were real.
You can't just shut everything off because you're hurt. I'm not shutting everything off because I'm hurt, I replied.
I'm shutting it off because I'm done being disrespected while paying for the privilege. So you're really cancelling Daniela's wedding? Her college?
Everything? She's an adult, I said.
She can decide if she wants to stand by her mother's lover. I can decide if I want to fund it. Laura switched tactics. She's your daughter, she pleaded.
She's innocent in this.
She just loves OAL too. He's been like a second father to her. The phrase made me physically nauseous.
I took a slow breath. I already hired a lawyer, I said.
You'll get the papers this week.
If you want to talk, it'll be through her. You wouldn't dare, she spat. After everything I gave you, everything I sacrificed, you gave me a daughter. I cut in. For that, I'll always be grateful.
You also gave me an unfaithful wife and a child who thinks I'm disposable.
For that, I'll adjust my investments. She went quiet.
Then, if you do this, she'll hate you forever. Then you'll finally get what you want, I said.
A life without petty dad in it. I hung up. I knew that wasn't the end of it. It was barely the beginning that evening, as I sat on the motel bed eating a sad sandwich and drinking lukewarm coffee. My phone buzzed again. This time it was ANDRS.
Hi, Sergio.
Is this a bad time? He asked, voice formal, nervous. Now's fine, I said.
I don't really know how to ask this, but Daniela is completely distraught. She says you're cancelling the wedding and her tuition. She won't tell me why.
She just keeps saying you're overreacting. I stared at the wall. The easy route was to tell him it was a family issue and leave him in the dark like they were trying to leave me. But I remembered his face the first time he came to ask for my permission to marry her.
Hands trembling, voice cracking, respectful, honest. He deserved more honesty than I'd been given. ANDRS. I said slowly. Do you know who IL is?
The trainer from the gym.
He said, confused. Your wife's friend?
I've seen him at the house a couple of times.
He's not just a friend, I said. He's been your future mother-in-law's lover for a while. Daniela knows.
She wants him at the wedding.
I walked in yesterday and heard them laughing about how petty I am because I don't want him there.
Silence. When ANDRS finally spoke, his voice was smaller. She
knew about the affair. Yes, I said.
From the beginning, apparently, and she never told me. That's between you two. I replied. I'm not telling you what to do.
I just refuse to fund any of this.
Weddings off as far as my bank account is concerned. He exhaled sharply. Thank you for telling me, he said. I need to think. But thank you. After we hung up, I lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling.
In 24 hours, I'd gone from dad who pays for everything to a man alone in a motel with a lawyer on retainer. Weirdly, under the grief and confusion, something else had started to appear, not happiness.
Not yet, but a thin, hard line of resolve. I had just taken the first swing at a life I'd been trapped in for years without realizing it. They wanted IL at the wedding. Fine, let's see how far he's willing to go in the buffet. The music, the venue, the apartment, and the degree all come with a price tag, and my name is no longer on it. I didn't plan to go back home that day.
But I also couldn't keep living in a motel the way a man does right before he starts talking to the vending machine. So after work, I drove back not to reconcile, not to talk, just to gather what was mine and keep moving forward. When I pulled into the driveway, I immediately saw a car I didn't recognize.
A silver SUV, expensive, polished,
With a vanity plate that absolutely screamed midlife crisis energy, and standing next to it was IL, the man himself.
the legendary yoga-trance-scented friend. White teeth, fake tan, tight polo shirt, arms crossed like he'd rehearsed the pose in a mirror. I sat in my truck for a few seconds just watching the scene. He was talking to Daniela on the porch. She was crying loud, dramatic sobs yet somehow still perfectly.
Touching up her mascara with her phone camera, then
The front door opened and out stepped Laura.
she gave me this look equal parts
Victory and threat, as if she thought I was coming.
home to beg. I got out of the truck.
Calm, steady, cold. The way a man feels right before the
Midpoint of his life's disaster movie. IL straightened.
his back like he was expecting applause. Hola, Sergio, he said with that smug gym trainer confidence.
We should talk. Man to man. IL, I replied. I don't talk to men who sleep with married women.
Call me old-fashioned. His plastic smile flickered. Laura rushed forward. Sergio, enough. You're making a fool out of yourself. We're all adults here. We can discuss this civilly. Ah, yes, civilly.
The word people use right after they've blown up your life. Daniela came down the steps, wiping her tears. Dad, please. We need to talk about this before you ruin everything even worse. Even worse. Amazing how fast the people you raised can turn into strangers. Dad, she continued, stepping in front of me. You can't cut off my tuition. I only have 2 semesters left. You can't punish me because you're hurt. I looked at her, my grown daughter, who used to bring me hand-drawn Father's Day cards, and now saw me as an ATM that talked back. I'm not punishing you, I said. I'm ending a subscription.
You're free to continue the service if you can find another provider. Her mouth fell open like I'd slapped her with a dictionary. IL decided this was the moment to show leadership. Look, Sergio, I understand you're upset now. I cut him off.
You understand yoga.
Don't confuse the two. He raised his hands, pretending to be peaceful. I'm just trying to make this transition easier for everyone. Ah, I didn't realize you were planning to join the family officially, I said.
Should I move out already, or will you and Laura wait until the ink dries?
Laura gasped. Sergio, don't be theatrical. Woman, I said. You staged the theatrics the moment you brought your boyfriend into the script. Now the neighbors were peeking out their windows. Of course they were.
I peeked too if betrayal and hypocrisy were being performed live on my street. Daniela stomped her foot like a teenager.
Dad, stop making this about ILEC. He makes MOM happy.
Why can't you just accept that? Because, I said, your mother forgot to mention she was divorcing me before upgrading to a newer model. That one hit hard. Laura's face turned red.
Her controlled tone cracked. Sergio, you think you can walk away from this marriage and from your responsibilities just like that? Responsibilities? I asked. Which ones are those exactly?
Paying for a wedding where my wife's lover gets front row seating.
Financing a university career for someone who openly mocks me in my own kitchen? Funding the lifestyle you built on my back while you planned your exit strategy?
No one spoke. As though I aimed at the real target. IL, I said.
Since you're apparently part of the family now, congratulations. You can take over my payments.
Daniela's tuition is due next week.
The wedding venue wants their second installment by Friday. The florist, the dress, the catering all covered so far by me. But I won't be paying another cent. RL finally blinked. Even his tan looked shaken. I never said, he began. You never say anything unless it benefits you, I interrupted. Relax.
I'm not asking you to pay. I'm just announcing the vacancy. Daniela burst into full meltdown mode. Dad, you can't do this.
Miguel will cancel the wedding.
He'll think I hid something from him. You did hide something from him, I said. She froze. And if Miguel has half a brain, I continued.
He'll ask himself what else you're capable of hiding. Laura stepped forward, voice trembling with rage now. You are destroying your daughter's life. No, I said.
I'm refusing to fund her bad judgment. There's a difference. Silence again. Then IL of all people tried one more time. Sergio, Hermano, why don't we just sit and talk? You're clearly overwhelmed. I stared at him. I moved half our joint bank account to a private account this morning, I said.
Your credit cards are inactive.
The lawyer will send the divorce papers tomorrow.
The wedding funding is gone.
Daniela's tuition is now her responsibility.
Overwhelmed isn't the word you're looking for. REL swallowed hard. Good. He should. But I wasn't done. I pointed at the house. I'm going inside, I said.
I am packing what's mine.
You three can stay out here and do whatever performance you had planned. But understand one thing, I stepped closer until REL flinched. I'm not the petty one in this story. I'm the one who finally stopped financing the disrespect. Then I walked past them, up the steps, and into the house that, for the first time in years, no longer felt like home.
Miguel's voice didn't rise.
It didn't tremble. It didn't crack, and that was worse. A calm man in the middle of a collapsing room is either the rescuer or the executioner. Sergio, he said again, can we talk privately?
Daniela reacted like a child seeing her ice cream slip off the cone. No, whatever you want to say. You can say it in front of me.
I'm your fiancé. Miguel finally looked at her. It wasn't anger. It wasn't confusion. It was disappointment. A look that hits harder than any slap. Daniela, he said quietly. I'm not sure that's true anymore. Her knees almost buckled. Miguel, please don't do this. I can explain everything. He turned back to me. Mr. Sergio, he said, I need to hear the truth directly from you. Daniela went pale. Laura tried to intervene. Wait, this is not the time. Miguel raised his hand, and she actually stepped back. He wasn't loud.
He wasn't aggressive.
But for the first time, he was in control. Sergio, he repeated, is it true that Daniela knew about
all this? About the affair?
I didn't spare anyone. Yes, I said. She knew from the beginning. Daniela gasped. Dad. Miguel didn't look at her. He looked at the floor, breathing slowly, like a man piecing together a puzzle he desperately hoped was wrong. And the wedding? He asked.
She told me you refused to help because you didn't want to be involved. She said you were
being difficult. I almost laughed. Difficult. Your fiancé, I said, wanted her mother's lover seated at the family table during the ceremony I was paying for.
And she mocked me for objecting. Miguel's head snapped up. REL.
At the wedding?
Daniela jumped forward. Miguel, baby, listen, don't. He said sharply. She froze. He turned to me again. And the university?
She expected me to keep paying, I said, regardless of how she treated me. He closed his eyes. One long breath. 2. Miguel.
Daniela whispered, voice breaking. You don't understand.
I was just confused, MOM. And there were things. He finally looked at her. What else have you lied about? Silence. No one breathed. Laura opened her mouth, but even she stopped when she saw Miguel's expression. Daniela stepped toward him, hands trembling. Miguel,
please.
I love you. He didn't move. He didn't blink. He just studied her like she was a stranger who happened to be wearing Daniela's face. When were you going to tell me about the affair? He asked. She swallowed. I didn't think it mattered to us. Miguel exhaled a laugh short.
Bitter, stunned. It matters, he said. When your family is the reason your fiancé's father-in-law is in a hotel instead of in his own home. That one hit Laura like a slap. Miguel, she snapped. You don't know the full story. I know enough, he said without looking at her. Then he turned back to me. Sergio.
I'm sorry you were put through this. You've always treated me with more respect than my own father managed when he was alive. Those words cut deeper than anything Daniela had said. He straightened his shoulders. Daniela, he said softly. I need space. I need time. I need honesty. And right now.
I don't know who you are. She broke, then her whole body shaking as she grabbed his arm. Miguel, please, don't leave me.
I'll change. I'll do anything. He gently pulled free. I hope so, he said. For your own sake. Then he nodded to me
and walked out the front door. Leaving my daughter collapsed on the living room floor, Laura knelt beside her, glaring at me like I'd pushed the building over myself. Sergio, she hissed.
Look what you've done. I lifted my suitcase and headed for the door. No, I said. Look what you've raised. And I walked out. I didn't go far. Just to the truck. I sat inside, hands on the steering wheel, watching the front door through the windshield like it was a stage after the curtain falls. Inside, I could still hear muffled crying, Daniela's sobs, Laura's angry whispers, the frantic pacing that happens when a plan collapses faster than you can lie to save it. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt something quieter, something sharper. Clarity for the first time. The roles were reversed. I wasn't reacting to them. They were reacting to me, 23 years too late. But still, after a few minutes, I started the engine, then stopped again when someone tapped on the passenger window. It was Miguel. He'd been sitting in his own car, one row down, hands shaking on the roof. When I unlocked the door, he slipped inside like a man who needed shelter from more than the weather. "I'm sorry," he said immediately, "for dragging you into this, for asking you questions I shouldn't have had to ask." "You didn't drag me," I said. "We're both cleaning up the same mess." He gave a miserable laugh. "I never wanted a big wedding, you know." Daniela insisted. Her MOM insisted. "Tradition," they said. "Family expectations," they said. He leaned back against the headrest. "Now, I can't tell which decisions were hers and which were her mother's. Most of them were neither," I said. "They were Oriel's influence," Miguel grimaced. "I can't believe he had that much control. He had as much as they let him have." We sat there for a while. Two men who'd both loved the same family in different ways, both blindsided by the same betrayal. After a long silence, he asked something I didn't expect. "Do you think Daniela can grow up from this?" I thought about it. Not as a father trying to protect her. Not as a man who'd been betrayed. Just, honestly, she can, I said slowly. "But only if she sits with the consequences instead of outrunning them." Miguel nodded, staring at the house. "I'll give her that chance," he said. "But I'm not giving her a free pass." Smart kid. He opened the door, pausing before he stepped out. "Sergio, regardless of what happens with Daniela and me, I want you to know something." He turned to face me. "You were the only real father figure I've ever had." I didn't have words for that. So I just nodded. He nodded back and walked to his car. A minute later, he drove away quiet, steady. A man choosing his future instead of inheriting someone else's chaos. I finally pulled out of the driveway. No one ran after me. No one screamed. No one banged on the truck window. They were too busy drowning in the consequences of a game they never thought would end that night. I checked into a motel across town. Same thin pillows. Same humming mini fridge. Same sense of temporary life. But it felt different now. Not like running. Not like hiding. More like shedding second skin. I spent the next days moving like a man rebuilding from the bones outward. Met with Carlos every morning. Closed accounts. Cancelled cards. Reclaimed control piece by piece. Removed Laura's access to anything connected to my identity. Transferred the car title. Met with HR to adjust my benefits. Block by block. Brick by brick. I dismantled the life that no longer belonged to me. On the fourth day, Daniela showed up at the motel. She must have gotten my location from the bank notifications or the cancelled card alerts. She was resourceful when the motive was panic. She stood outside the door crying, begging, promising anything she thought would reopen the pipeline. But I didn't open the door, not because I didn't care, but because caring had to stop being the same thing as enabling. The next morning, she left a note under the door. It was 2 pages long, tear-stained, guilt-soaked, emotional, desperate, and for the first time, honest. At the bottom, she had written, "I know I'm not the daughter you deserved, but I want to become the daughter you can still love. If you give me that chance, I'll earn it." I folded the note carefully and placed it inside my suitcase. Not forgiven, not forgotten, but kept. Then my phone buzzed. "Carlos, are you ready?" He asked. "For what?" "For the next step," he said. "Selling the house." I looked around the motel room, at my packed suitcase, at the new life being assembled from broken pieces. "Yeah," I said, "I'm ready." I left Mexico with no ceremony. No dramatic farewell, just a one-way ticket, a single suitcase, and a clarity I should fought for years earlier. Chile didn't ask who I had been. It only cared about who I was willing to become. Work consumed me in the best way. I wasn't escaping. I was rebuilding. The team respected me. The younger engineers called me Don Fernando, half joking, half admiring. And in that new environment, without the weight of a failing marriage or entitled dependence, I felt something I hadn't felt in decades.
freedom. Elena entered my life quietly,
like someone knocking gently instead of breaking down the door.
She didn't want anything from me, no house, no money, no certainty. She liked my stories, my experience, my honesty.
She liked me. We took things slowly, and slowly was exactly what I needed. Meanwhile, Daniela kept her promise. She didn't beg.
She didn't manipulate.
She didn't ask for money. She showed up, month after month, call after call, with proof not words that she was changing.
She told me about her job, about learning to budget, about Miguel's support, about how she apologized to him with the same sincerity she'd shown me. She earned back respect inch by inch. By the time she told me Miguel had re-proposed, this time without flowers,
without an expensive venue, without illusions, I saw in her a woman, not the dependent girl who once laughed at me in a kitchen she didn't pay for. Her wedding was simple, honest, and paid for by the two of them alone. I stood next to her before she walked down the aisle this time, not because she felt entitled to it, but because she asked. "Dad," she whispered, "thank you for not shutting the door forever. You gave me a reason to leave it open." I said when I placed her hand in Miguel's. There was no bitterness left. Only the quiet truth that some relationships are broken, so they can be rebuilt correctly. Veronica attended, small and silent in the back row.
Life had not been kind to her after Aro vanished. She'd chosen a man made of sand, and when the tide of reality came, he washed away.
But she didn't approach me, and I didn't approach her. Some bridges don't burn. They simply collapse from disrepair after the ceremony. I flew back to Santiago, where Elena waited with 2 glasses of wine and a warm smile. "You look lighter," she said. "I think," I answered.
I finally put the past down where it belongs. Months passed.
Then years. Daniela and Miguel welcomed their first child, a boy with my eyes, according to everyone except me.
They built their home with small furniture, second-hand appliances, and big laughter.
They invited me often.
I visited when work allowed. I taught at the university part-time. I took weekend trips with Elena. I learned to cook badly, ski passably, and live peacefully. One afternoon on my balcony overlooking Santiago's skyline, I understood the full truth. I didn't lose a family.
I shed the parts of it that were never truly mine. The betrayal that almost broke me had instead delivered me to the life I should have been living all along, a life built on dignity,
self-respect, and relationships, and honest love, a life I didn't know I deserved until I finally demanded it.